Welcome back, Commander. Though it may not know it yet, the galaxy is under threat, and to combat this threat, two idiots must shoot some space Nazis. The game is Mass Effect, and this is the N7 Project.
Status report.
Well, we are both on the tail end of a mini snowpocalypse down here in Texas.
Oh, Lord. Yeah. It's sad that a snowpocalypse involves like half an inch of snow, but it is what it is here in Texas.
Yeah, it's all about like what your infrastructure can sustain, and Texans don't plan for snow. So the moment we get any of it, everything shuts down. At least this time, it seems that power wasn't an issue like it was for the real one last year.
Yeah. For those of you not in the know, we both live in Texas here, and we are both thoroughly traumatized by the events of last year around this time when we lost power for about a week. For some of us, it's only a few days, but almost all of Texas was down because our grid is special.
Literally, when the federal government said, "Hey, Texas, can you modernize your grid? Otherwise, we're going to kick you off the main power grid," Texas was like, "Fuck you guys! We'll have our own power grid with blackjack and hookers and blackouts." Fucking let's avoid the kvetching about the awful like political situation down here.
Sure, yeah. Suffice it to say, like we were all a little bit leery of this predicted quote unquote snowpocalypse.
Yeah. It was just a little one. We had like one day where it didn't get above freezing and some accumulation and stuff. But specifically my house, because of the way our driveway is, it's like a nice 25, 30 degree driveway. It's a pretty steep one. I don't know. That's probably too high, but it's a steep driveway, and then our fence shades the side of the driveway our car uses from the sun.
Oof.
So it is, despite the fact that the streets are all clear, I think if I tried to get out of my driveway, I would end up sliding down the ice and into the creek behind our house.
Oh, God.
So we'll have to figure that one out. But
I ended up having to shovel and chip the ice off of our patio just so that our dogs can
because you get the littles.
Make it to the backyard without wiping out.
Oh, poor little girls.
Most of them are fine, but like Imoen just does not heed anything, and she just ended up on her back a couple of times. So we took care of that.
Poor girl.
She loves the snow otherwise.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Pretty Boy loves it. He's a great Pyramex. So like when the snow comes out, he gets the zoomies. He's like, "Yes, this is great. I'm a dog and the ground is weird. Let's run in circles." Well, the other news is that in after much trying, I managed to get a video card.
Amazing. Like that's I mean, you had to have like proved that like 9 months ago or something.
No, what happened is I ended up having to join a Discord of people who just like keep track of what stuff is in stock. And then when I got an alert that they had cards down at the local micro center, I was able to like show up and be like, "Give me a fucking card, guys." And it's nice. I went from a 1060 to a 3060.
That's a big upgrade.
Yeah, it is. And like immediately I was like, "Oh, great. Now I can go back to trying to use Blender and like making glass items and like trying out caustics and stuff." It's really cool.
Yeah, I saw some of the renders you made. Those are really cool.
Yeah, that was super fun. How's your portfolio project going?
I have still been going through a tutorial, like working through like a 17-part, the classic donut tutorial.
Donut
for Blender.
tutorial.
And I'm in the tail ends of it. Like I'm learning a lot about post-processing at the moment. But like a lot of this stuff has sort of been like stuff that I'm familiar with from working with other 3D programs or with Unity. But like it's always nice to like learn a little bit from someone else who really knows what they're doing, knows their stuff, and most importantly, picking up hotkeys and that kind of thing. Yeah,
that's a huge thing. And like also just like, especially with any kind of big program like that, you'll find out that like, oh, here's a feature that you would never have found on your own that you didn't even know to Google for. Like you wouldn't have known like what it was, but they give you some keyword and you're like, "Oh, that'll be useful in this other completely unrelated thing." It's great.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm getting close to finishing that. I'm hoping to finish that up this weekend and then get back on my portfolio project
Cool. All right. Well, we have a lot to cover today because we did side quests. So let's get into the mission debrief.
Mission debrief.
So first of all, the most important question. When you're invading a Cerberus base, do you release the monstrosities before or after you kill the racists?
For me, it's always after. Like, I don't interact with things when there's people to shoot. So
I like opening up we'll get to those in a minute, but I like opening them up first because it just causes a lot of chaos. And I don't, it's like goblin mode where I'm like, yes, there's so much stuff I could be shooting. Okay. So, but we're not going to start with that mission. We're going to start with UNC espionage probe. Upon flying to the Voyager cluster, our main man, Admiral Hackett, calls to let us know that like 20 years ago, humanity fired a bunch of quote-unquote spy probes to gather a bunch of information quickly about the galaxy because we were in the middle of a war with the Turians. One of them has recently showed back up, way past its due date. Oh, and they all had 20 kiloton nukes on them. Did we mention that? Yeah, because that might be a war crime. Hackett wants Shepard to take care of this hush-hush now. Head on over to the Amazon system, locate a planet called the Agabinium. Drive until you find a mine, go into the mine. The place definitely doesn't look suspicious at all as you head in. Just an empty mine with a nuclear bomb at the bottom. Find the probe, and suddenly somebody detonates some seismic charges to seal you in. They do this really badly, I might add. We'll get to that in a sec. You get a call from a Turian named Elanos Haliut, who was once the leader of all the pirates in the Terminus systems, but lost power after failing at the Skillian Blitz. Fun fact, this dude was accidentally given a human model in the original game, but it's fixed now, apparently. Anyway, he wants to kill Shepard because killing a Spectre will get him his old job back or something. I don't know. He's rigged the bomb to blow. So you can either spend 300 Omnigel or just hack the shit out of the bomb to activate it. Take your pick. Then you know how you were supposed to be sealed in? Well, the entrance is sealed, but the back door is now open. The one that leads you, a very angry and murderous human with no governmental oversight and a lot of weapons, directly at the guy who just tried to kill you. The next bit is actually a sniper's paradise. Like even Jet Shepard, whose idea of precision is hitting a single person at 50 yards, decide to whip out her sniper rifle and take these dudes down. And thus ends some random guy.
Yeah. So I gotta say, I don't think it's any mystery why this Elanos Haliut lost his job as
It's such a fucking stupid plan. like
there are two very obvious exits to this rune. And guys just like, you know what? I'm just going to collapse one of these tunnels. That should be fine.
Yeah. Like, and there's no chance that Shepard will like disarm the bomb. They're only like a highly skilled operative who carts around at least one technician all of the time if they don't have the skills themselves, because you need to be able to open all those doors and hack all those consoles. So like you're going to have Tali or something around to do this shit for you.
I'm curious, do you even get locked out of doing those if you don't have anyone? Like if you just want like an all-biotic squad or something?
I think you need to have at least some sort of hacking skill on one of your characters in order to do it, because you use the hacking thing, I think, but I could be wrong. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just have to do the little mini game. For me, it was the Frogger one. What is it still the Simon?
Oh yeah, it's still the Simon Says. It's painfully easy.
Yeah. The Frogger one is not hard at all, depending on exactly what kind of layout you get. But like it was just like like it was like literally I imagine like Shepard walking up to it and just like snipping one wire on each of those little sections and then walking out. And then you get dumped out on the other side of the mine. Helpfully they like give you a Mako, like they move the Mako from the front to the back for you. But yeah, you get dropped off and like you're literally in a sniper's perch over the little camp that you're supposed to be killing all the dudes in. Even my character, who is a vanguard and thus like completely useless with sniper rifles, still was like, oh, you know what? I'll just like pop this thing out. I'm sure your infiltrator was in heaven.
It was a delight. It was just shooting fish in a barrel.
Yep. And then just like boop, 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 boop. Oh, they're all dead. I get a little like pop-up thing that says, hey, you killed Elanos Haliut. And that's it. There's not really a lot plot-wise in this particular one. It's just some random dude. He has a terrible plan. Like his plan was to steal a bomb, let the Alliance know about it, assuming the Alliance would tell Shepard about it, wait for Shepard to show up, and then blow up the bomb, but leaving Shepard alone inside of the thing and like sealing them off inside of it, but only on one side. Like literally they could have probably just like, it's just like 2 turns away. You literally could have just gone like, you didn't even have to disarm it. Technically, you could have gone back up the tunnel, take one left turn, and then been back out like the back door. It would have been fine. This guy did not think things through.
And they bring your Mako around for you like a valet service.
Apparently, if you're having trouble with that fight, and a valid strategy in the Legendary Edition is to just run straight for the Mako and jump in the Mako, which apparently still has the keys in it, so that like you can just fire your cannon at the camp full of dudes.
Always a good time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, moving on. We're going to move on to UNC Lost Module. Over in the Hercules system, Hackett has another little job for us. There's another crashed probe, no nukes this time, but it's got some data on it that we need, but the data has been stolen by monkeys. Literally, I wish this was more interesting, but space monkeys have grabbed the modules you need, and you got to drive over to a mine and touch all of the monkeys to see who has the data. Once you get it, some Geth attack, because I guess they want the data too. Man, don't look at me. Not all of these can be winners.
Due to the part of this quest, I ended up actually getting killed and having to restart.
Oh, really?
So I had to do the monkey thing twice.
Oof. It's really stupid.
However, the first time I touched all the monkeys, just went around,
Yeah, you got to hit them all.
You don't actually.
Oh, okay. You can just go straight down to the bottom and find the right monkey.
The second time, like I was like, I remember where the monkey I needed was, so I just went there and found him and skipped all the other monkeys.
Yeah. I am bothered by the fact that they just decided to put space monkeys in. Like, this feels like the inclusion of them at all feels a little bit like some guy who, because this was made in, this is early 2000s, like turn of the millennium, where like monkeys were really funny. Like there was a meme going around that like everything would be monkeys. And so like you could imagine that some dude like in the dev department was like, you know what, we need space monkeys. And everybody's like, haha, that'll be hilarious. And it's like, yeah, no, it's not that funny, guys. Not enough to like make an entire mission about, please.
Don't these like in later games get like retconned to be Pyjacks? Like I think it's the same model.
Is it? I don't know.
I think
but like
so.
literally they're called space monkeys.
They are.
And they do get more of a snout, I guess, later on, or they do have kind of a snout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
when you're and once you find the data module, I think you get hit by a random Geth attack in the tunnels.
Yeah.
Or,
I don't know that it's random. I think that the in-universe explanation is that the data you're looking for is information on the location of Geth bases or Geth movements or something like that.
Yeah.
And maybe that the Geth shot down the probe or something. So like you're trying to get it and the Geth are also trying to get it. I don't know. It's not super well explained. I don't think it's not particularly important. Like it doesn't come up. Mm-hmm. It's not related to anything else. It's just one of those things.
All I know is I got bum rushed by one of those Geth juggernauts or destroyers or whatever. Just got up in my face as a sniper and wasn't prepared for it and ended up with me having to do monkeys twice. Yeah.
It's not my favorite quest in the world. At least it's relatively short, although you do have to do a fair bit of driving around. But it's not like 5 of the same base that you have to do multiple times, or like 3 of the same base that you have to go through and kill all of the same operatives in. We have one of those on this episode too. Anyway, okay.
Yeah, just side note. Did they really only have like one dungeon model to use? Like,
well, I think they've got like 5 total, but like only one of each type. Like they've got one mine, they've got one like human base, and then they've got like the above ground stronghold, and they've got like the bunker. Like it's like they've only got a couple of them, and they just reuse them. That wouldn't bother me quite so much, except that it would be relatively easy. I feel like it wouldn't be too hard to rearrange some of the components of those so that sometimes you're coming in at the other end of the same model and they're seeing it from the other direction, and maybe dress it up a bit more with different things. Like it feels like you could have gotten more mileage out of those than they ended up getting. Like they really are exactly the same every time, which is a shame.
Yeah.
All right. Well, more interestingly, we have, I'm not even sure this is a mission. It's just the Prothean ruin on Elitania, the monkey planet.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't quite a quest, but on the monkey planet, there's a Prothean sphere just like hanging out. And if you have the amulet from boinking the Asari consort, you can activate the artifact and get downloaded memories from some Cro-Magnon hunter-gatherer that the Protheans apparently did a tag and release on. Shepard pulls an inner light and lives like years, I guess, as a primitive human, and then wakes up only to find that a few minutes have passed. And then they never talk about this to anyone ever again. It's never brought up, as far as I can tell. The fact that like that Shepard has like the memories of a Cro-Magnon now, Just doesn't happen. Now, that being said, I give this a little bit of crap, but this is such a cool Easter egg to find. I personally find you have to have already done a different quest. You get here, you insert a thing that you got from that you thought was just going to be a useless trinket, and they give you a nice little description of like the Protheans fucking around with some Cro-Magnons and like, you know, basically downloading information from their brains so that they can learn about them, I guess. It's very cool.
Yeah, it seems like completely out there, and like I felt like there was going to be like some follow-up to that, and there never was.
I understand why there isn't follow-up, because this is something so many people could miss. Like, if you getting over to it alone is difficult. Like literally driving to the Prothean ruin is a huge pain. And if you didn't know something was there, you'd be very unlikely to do it.
I mean, it shows up on your map.
It does?
Yeah. If you check your map, there's a little like question mark or exclamation mark or something.
That being said, not everybody does everything on those maps. So I'm saying it's pretty easy for people to have missed this one. So if there was stuff in later games about it, you could expect that a bunch of people wouldn't know about it. Now, that being said, I still think they should have done follow-up. I just understand why maybe they didn't, because it's very possible that not a lot of people saw this. And also the number of people who hit the button, saw a huge wall of text, and just clicked through and didn't read anything that happened is probably quite high. Yeah, it's cool. It's one of those things. I wish they could have afforded a voice actor or something to just audiobook style read it, you know, maybe skippable still, but like give you the explanation or something. I don't know. It's cool.
I mean, obviously an in-game cutscene would have been the best and the coolest, but that's a lot of...
Yeah, that's almost unreasonable. Yeah, that's unreasonable, because you don't have a Cro-Magnon model. Like you'd have to like make a whole new environment on Earth with like fucking, you know, woolly mammoths and shit. Like,
yeah.
It's cool. I also like the fact that you have to have had the Asari consort's amulet, which means that even if you had gotten there out of order, it's possible that you wouldn't have seen this. I always admire a game that has the balls to just lock content out because you didn't quite work it. Like it gives the opportunity for people to have missed it, you know?
Yeah.
Rather than like making sure everybody sees everything. It's kind of nice.
That adds to replayability, honestly.
Yeah, it does. Oh, because you go, oh, what's this for? Like, why don't have the thing? Like, it's got a socket. I'm gonna have to come back here later, or you know, try it again later, or go look it up.
God, I would never come back there a second time unless I absolutely had to. Like, the drive over there is torturous.
Yeah. If they had been able to put more effort into the Legendary Edition, maybe completely replacing the Mako with something that could fly around would be really nice.
I don't know. That I think that would have had everyone up in arms. Like,
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's janky, but it's our janky, you know?
That's true. Yeah. There's some nostalgia there.
So I think we've got a question for you.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
What's the deal with the Asari consort? Is she like supposed to be like sort of prophetic? Like, I never really understood, like she gives you like this like cryptic wisdom and apparently an amulet that works with Prothean stuff on a planet that she never mentions. I have a theory, which is that because it's not really explained, but the reason why she gives you what is apparently, they call it like an amulet or whatever, but it's apparently a Prothean artifact. And a little bit of this is okay. Let's table this and we're gonna put it in Shadowbroker files, because there's stuff in it. Gotta make sure I remember these things. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Moving on then, we're gonna talk about the UNC Lost Freighter.
Alrighty.
In the Ming system, in the Gemini Sigma cluster, you find the MSV Worthington just floating derelict. The interior is empty, save for some booby traps, but in the medical bay, there is a comatose man and some logs you can play. It seems the man is Jacob, and due to some accident, he's been rendered brain dead. His powerful biotic girlfriend, Julia, didn't take this so well, and when the crew of the ship decided to pull Jacob's plug as an act of mercy, she killed all of them. And then she tries to kill you, because you might do the same. And this one just kind of makes me sad a little bit, because you don't even get a chance to like try to talk her down. She just like blindly attacks you and then gets her ass handed to her immediately. Or at least for me, like literally the way the triggering on her showing up is either when you try to pull the plug for him, or if you read all 3 logs, she just appears behind you. And for me, I'm high enough level that literally the door opened and both of my companions shot her in the face with shotguns, and she like splattered into a gray mist or pink mist. And it was just like, what happened? Oh, I guess that was her. I think the fact that they didn't do a cut scene or an option for dialogue there where you could talk her down, or at least have a moment to talk to her and try to make a connection, I think is a huge missed opportunity. I think that
I feel like you ever only jump scare a Krogan once and then never again.
Yeah, no, you do not have an opportunity. Yeah, I like the story premise is all right. It's there's nothing wrong. Like it's a good starting point. We get the nice little, like, if you listen to the logs, you get to the point where like the captain's talking about, okay, we're going to do it. And then you hear Julia come in and interrupt him and then like kill him on mic or whatever. And like, I feel like it just feels like half a story. Like they tell the first part of the story and then Shepard has shown up and like is piecing this together. But like Julia's still there and just blindly attacks you the moment that you finish the log. Like, I don't know. I feel like they could have done just a little bit more with this one. There's just not, and it doesn't come up anywhere. There's nobody looking for these people as far as I can tell. It's just a thing you find.
Yeah.
You know, you can't even take the story of it back to like, you know, a relative or somebody to like explain what happened to them, you know.
And the booby traps are pretty much a non-threat.
Yeah, you just shoot the barrels like
like you bump into one the first time and it explodes and like, oh, I guess I need to not bump into those anymore. And then that's it.
Yeah. And there's no opportunity to like do things out of order. Like you can't like accidentally come across Julia before everything else and like either talk to her or even shoot her before like she shows up. Like it's not dynamic. Like it doesn't feel like Shepard is actually taking part in this story in a little way. Like you're coming across something that happened before and then you don't get the full, you don't really, I don't know. Like it just doesn't feel complete. Like it doesn't feel like we really got the full version of this.
Yeah, it just sort of feels like Shepard's just like flicking the lights off on his way out, kind of.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So yeah, not my favorite. I mean, like I said, it's a solid premise. They could have done something with it. Luckily, it's not. There's not really. Doesn't waste your time. At least you just kind of go in, do the thing, and go out. Yeah. All right. Well, on to the meat of the program. Okay, this is UNC Cerberus. Okay, technically this starts with UNC missing Marines. There's this Admiral Kohaku in the Citadel Tower who's apparently lost some of his dudes. He needs you to go look for him. You know that Thresher Maw fight that I always bumble into while looking for Liara? This is that. It turns out that Kohaku's Marines were lured to that Thresher Maw and slaughtered, letting them know of their deaths and that it was a trap. This leads Kohaku to investigate their deaths. A little while later, Kohaku calls you to let you know that the group behind it is something called Cerberus, an anti-alien group that has gone rogue. He passes you the coordinates of their base and says that they're onto him. You may not hear from him again. Head over to the coordinates and you'll find a series of, God damn it, it's the same bunker map as the Luna missions a bunch of times, isn't it? Okay, one has Cerberus agents and a bunch of Thorian creepers. Another one has Cerberus agents and a bunch of Rachni workers. And finally, another one has Cerberus agents and some Rachni warriors. Kill everything in sight, and in the last bunker, you'll find Kohaku's body. Poor dude. You were just trying to do what's right. Of course, you'll also find some info on where to find the people that did this to him. This leads us directly into UNC Hades Dogs. Using the info you found on Kohaku's body, you head over to the Columbia system and find one more Cerberus base. Nothing fancy this time, just go in and kill lots of dudes, all of them. Once the place is clear, you interact with a terminal and download a bunch of data on Cerberus. Back on the ship, hey, look who's calling, an agent of the Shadow Broker. Turns out old SB was the one who to tell Kohaku where to find Cerberus, and now that you've got the data, SB wants it, which is fine with us if Shadow Broker would like to pay a lot of money for it. So this is as short as I didn't make a bunch of jokes on this one. This is actually one of my favorite side quests for ME1. You get it quite early. It's multiple stages across multiple planets, including a couple of different systems. And I like the fact that like you're kind of moving all over, going back to the Citadel to talk to Kohaku, and then coming out. Like it feels like an actual kind of investigation and an evolving storyline rather than just like coming across a thing and solving it and then walking away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like Kuhaku also comes off relatively well, I think, where he's like his main goal was just to like find his men and like figure out what happened to him and prevent them, or help them, and he runs across the wrong people and ends up killed for it, which is sad. And like I like this is one of my more things. It's pretty basic in terms of gameplay. Like it's not like it's not like there's really anything. I mean, like all of the side quests in ME1 are kind of like this. There's not, you kill Thresher Maw, you kill some agents on a planet, you kill some turrets on top of their bunkers. You have to do the same fucking bunker 3 times in a row and then go do the same bunker again on a different system. But like, like you get a little bit of info. They introduced the idea of Cerberus, which, fuck, we'll have to that's almost entirely a Shadow Broker files. Unfortunately. Yeah.
Going back to that same goddamn bunker. I think it makes sense that there's like some company just pumping out like bunker prefabs.
That would be a hilarious side quest mission in like maybe 2 or 3, where like you go to the factory where they're making them and like you see all the components broken down. That would be really funny. Okay. Well, before we can't talk much about this one without going into Shadow Broker files. So let's go to Shadow Broker files.
Alrighty.
Shadow Broker files.
Okay. So we'll do the Cerberus stuff first, and then we'll come back to the Asari.
Fresh on our mind.
Yeah. So Cerberus, this is the start of what will become a huge deal in the universe. Like this is one of those things where they did not lay this groundwork in Mass Effect 1 with the expectation they were going to be using it as much as they were in Mass Effect 2. Like they would have done more with Cerberus if they were expecting them to be such a big part of the rest of the next 2 games. Like there would have been more. Like this is a pretty good storyline, but like you could forget about it and not remember it at all.
Yeah, no, I remember just being like, oh yeah, wasn't it those guys like experimenting with like Arachni and Thorians? Like so like, but they become significant. I also like that in later missions, Joker like, man, remember when these guys were just like, laughably evil? Like they were just
I mean, they're kind of always laughably evil, honestly.
Yeah.
They as cool as the elusive man will be, the actual organization is very much like a Bond style villain guy who's got like a pretty much a volcanic layer as well. Like he like sits around that giant red dwarf star. Like, it's this feels very Bond villain.
Oh yeah.
And they never really get away from that. But like, I mean, it is fun that they like took something from that had been sort of maybe a throwaway joke or something that they were going to follow up with a little bit, but not go super far with. And they just like ran with it for 2 and 3. I do like where they go. But yeah, it just feels like I can feel the fingerprints on it where it's like, oh, this wasn't meant to be such a big part of the later games. This is such a small mission.
And they just, if this was sort of just like their because a lot of Mass Effect 1 feels rough, just in general. Like I love the game, and like they were groundbreaking a lot of stuff, but they definitely refined the process in the second and third games. And I feel like this feels like baby's first steps into whatever Mass Effect turned out to be. Yeah,
for sure, absolutely, and a little bit it feels like throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. Like Mass Effect 1, they. Like, because Cerberus isn't mentioned anywhere else outside of these missions, as far as I remember. It's possible they're mentioned elsewhere, but like I don't think so in Mass Effect 1. It's pretty much just on this one mission line. That says to me that somebody came up with this idea, proposed it as a series of side quests, got approval for it, and they went through and made it. It didn't take all that much effort because it was just some lines for some voice actors and a bunch of reused assets. So like, that's a relatively small thing to do. Somebody came up with this idea and then it just went into the world Bible. Oh, hey, there's an organization that does this. And then when they were starting to prep up on ME2, they said, oh, hey, that was a cool idea. Let's go back and do more with it. Not so much I don't think in the main story missions on or main story proposals on Mass Effect 1 they were going, oh yeah, let's make sure we lay the groundwork here for this. It was more of like somebody came up with the idea and then it got reused, which is totally cool. Like as an author, that's a completely valid way to do it. It just is interesting to see how something that will be so important later came from, just kind of a one-off idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also kind of like that feels like almost like an Easter egg for the people paying attention.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. And which they like doing, especially with stuff in Mass Effect 1. There is tons of stuff that if you just hadn't happened to do that side mission, it'll get called back later. You know, they will call back to a lot of stuff. You know, the Luna missions, you know, what's her name?
To get a refund on the Citadel.
Yeah. I mean, kind of even Conrad Werner's like that, you know, and they're just like, what can we do to make this feel like a world that continues and that has effects? And that's great. I like that. I like that they're willing to take an idea that was a one-off and then run with it, you know, that wasn't maybe part of the original plan. And it doesn't feel like we got all that much information about what Cerberus was, except that they're anti-alien is I think mentioned offhand as like, okay, these guys are like a shadow organization, which is why I make jokes about them being space Nazis.
Yeah. And that becomes a huge plot point in the next couple of games.
Yeah. And considering how much emphasis, especially in ME 1, they were talking about the humanity first, aliens are all bad versus like, let's work as a part of a galactic community and be, you know, friends with the aliens. As interesting as a conflict as that, as much as they were pushing that conflict in early ME 1, this seems like an idea that they could have used more in Mass Effect 1, you know, that like they were pushing that plot line, and here's a perfect example of how to use it, you know?
Can you imagine if there had been like quests or whatever, like where at the end of it, you find out you were like basically being used as a pawn to further the Cerberus agenda of like, they're like, we need you to take out this, you know, Turian, you know, pirate base or something. And it turns out afterwards, like, I guess they don't want to like turn you into, you know, a war criminal or something. So that's kind of a delicate line to tread.
And they can't have Cerberus be too evil in 1 because you end up, spoiler alert, working with them. Spoiler, we're in Shadowbrook Files. But yeah, like you end up working with them a bunch in ME 2. So they can't be that evil to the point where like you couldn't possibly ever work with them, you know? So there's some limit there. That being said, even just like if you're talking to some NPCs, like maybe once you find out about Cerberus, you can like, you walk back to the Presidium and you talk to, or you talk to a CSEC officer or something like that. And he like drops a code phrase or something that you've been revealed to. And like, you're like, oh, this is a more expansive organization than I thought they were, you know? That would have
actually been really cool. Yeah. Like if you, I actually like the bit about the code phrase that you mentioned. That would have been.
Yeah. Because that's one of the things that like, especially in later games, it certainly does seem like Cerberus has an unlimited amount of resources that they can just do whatever with. And they don't always necessarily, it doesn't seem like they're applying them in the most, what's the word? Efficient manner. Like they spend a lot of money resurrecting Shepard. They spend a lot of money cloning Shepard. They spend a lot of money doing a bunch of weird ass shit. And then that doesn't seem to go anywhere mostly. Like they do it like one-offs. Again, this is why it feels like a Bond villain kind of organization, you know? But yeah, who knows where the fuck they're getting their funding from? Like it seems like it's just incredible amounts.
If you talk with Miranda in ME2, she talks about how like they're basically all cells. Like that have little contact with each other. So like,
with only the elusive man apparently at the middle. Yeah. Man, I hate to bring back the ideas that to reuse them, but wouldn't it be cool if the elusive man had been an AI? Like the center of the Cerberus system had been like an AI that was manipulating all of these people who were blinded by their own racism in order to further its own goals.
I mean, that would have been really. That definitely would have been an interesting twist at the end.
Yeah. I mean, I like the elusive man, especially because they got fucking Martin Sheen to do him. He's charismatic. He's got a cool design. I like what he does, but like, especially because to use that as a twist would be to tell the audience, hey, you know, all of this, like all this racist shit that like it basically just blinds people to what are real problems, like existential threats that get ignored because everybody's dealing with their own shit. And like, in fact, it makes you easy to manipulate. That's like that's not a terrible message to throw at your audience. That like, not only does this like, is it just bad, but also like, it doesn't even accomplish its own goals. It just makes you a tool of people who have, you know, other things to, you know, who want to use your own prejudices against you. And then it brings in, that being said, it does drop the idea that like, the Reapers aren't the only threat. It would make like all AI is, some version of a threat. I don't know. It's just it would be fun. A fun plot version of things to take. Do you have anything else we want to talk about Cerberus?
I think that's pretty much. I think we're going to have plenty to say about Cerberus in future episodes.
They're going to come up. Yeah, especially once we get. At the moment, all of the info dumps about them in ME2 are far in my memory. I cannot dredge all the information up. So we'll have lots to talk about them, especially about like. They're one of the things. Working with them in 2 is one of those things that probably hasn't aged well. Like they are kind of. Maybe this would be a little bit harder to swallow these days. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about the Asari consort because we did put a pin in that idea. So my theory is that because we know that the Asari had extensive contact with the Protheans like showed up, pretended to be gods, and like uplifted the Asari or almost uplifted them such that they would be ready to jumpstart the next cycle.
Yeah, I'm
guessing that that's where this artifact comes from that the consort has. And I don't necessarily think that she can see the future, but what I can guess is that the Asari consort could sense the touched by the Protheans quality in Shepard and says, "Oh, hey, you've got you touched the codex or whatever it was, the conduit. You've got something in, you made contact with the beacon, so you've got some Prothean in you. I have this artifact here that maybe she doesn't even fully understand what it is, but knows that it's Prothean or senses that it's Prothean, and then sees like, oh, this needs to go with Shepard because like Shepard is the first person to come along that has the same sort of vibes as this artifact that I've got and hands it off to you." And I think that's because I think that the consort's a bit of a bullshitter. Like I think she doesn't know nearly so much as she thinks she does, like or projects. Like she's got that like fake it till you make it. If I pretend that I know what's going on and I'm just a little bit mysterious, then everybody's going to believe me and they'll just ascribe whatever actually happens to my predictions.
No, I got to say, like, my first interaction with the Asari consort, when that, like the sort of prophetic, like, this will be useful information to you later because mystical reasons, really put me off. Like, I didn't like that. Like in my hard sci-fi. I mean, I guess not hard sci-fi, but
it's soft sci-fi wearing the veneer of hard sci-fi. Yeah.
Exactly, and like that just felt like the prophecy must be fulfilled kind of thing, and I didn't care for it.
Yeah, and luckily, I don't think they tend to do that much anymore. Like the idea that like the Asari's biotic abilities, which once they sort of hammer down on their writers and say like, look, this is what these things do. Like Asari have the ability to like mind meld with people and sense things, but they only in these situations, versus like, oh, they can predict the future because it's magic because they're space elves. And somebody else, some editor was like, you know what? No, don't like, we can't write it out now, but like no more of that in the future. Like biotics is a very particular kind of space magic. It doesn't do that other thing. You can't do anything. I could see how that might throw you off because it really does ring true. That's something out of a fantasy series of like, here is the prophecy that will lead you towards your destiny. And it's like, well, Shepard doesn't really have a destiny in that sense. Like that's not the way this universe runs. Mm-hmm. Shepard isn't the one, they're not Neo. They're not like set out for any reason. They just happen to be the right person in the right place to like take on, huge galaxy changing, changes and like,
and I always really like that, like Shepard is chasing down like these leads on the Reapers and Saren because because that's the right thing for him to do, not because like not even so much that someone told him to, even though the council could give a shit, like as far as Saren's concerned.
No, Shepard is definitely. Shepard's definitely like an active agent. Like they have, like it's one of the reasons why they're sort of a hybrid character between one that you role play and like create your Shepard versus like the writers create and then you just are watching the Shepard. But like all versions of Shepards want to kill the Reapers. Like there is no Shepard out there who doesn't give a shit. Yeah, they're off doing their own shit and they want to make sure this stuff happens. And yeah, that's cool. It makes them a more interesting character than a lot of, like I could look at the Baldur's Gate protagonists who you can do whatever you want with your Baldur's Gate protagonist and sort of fill in all of the gaps. And therefore a little bit, you're just following along from quest giver to quest giver while they tell you what to do.
Yeah. Whereas Shepard is very much not the reluctant hero. And I like that.
Yeah. In fact, and all of the versions of the backgrounds you can pick for Shepard makes them some sort of hero, Not, it's different flavors of the same idea of like somebody who will do what is necessary or will do the impossible or will, survive and make things, keep on going all the way. Like you have this, you get to decide the flavor of hero you're going to be, but Shepard from day one is always going to be a hero by their nature, not necessarily because of a destiny, It's that this person was crafted by their circumstances to take part in a conflict and a plot and like to run down those leads and do what's necessary. It's cool. I like that as an example of a good way to build a protagonist, even when you are having to deal with the vagaries of player choice, that you give them some core,
Yeah.
All right.
And that's something that I feel like BioWare has done pretty well with the following titles, like their Dragon Age games and whatnot. Like you always set a foundation for why your character is cool.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely with Hawk and the Inquisitor from Dragon Age Inquisition. I don't remember, admittedly, Dragon Age, the original one, I guess Origins is what it was, has not made an impression on my mind. So it's possible that I'm just a caveat. It could be that protagonist is the same way, but literally I don't remember anything about that game. So
it's sort of similar. Like you basically role play through your initial backstory.
Yeah.
Like, and that's not something so much you choose as it's tied with like your class and your species.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, is there anything else we want to cover in Shadowbroker Files?
Let's see. I think we covered the Cerberus and the Asari and like the Prothean stuff is going to be interesting later on too.
Yeah. Actually, this is something I forgot to mention, which is the idea that like the Protheans apparently visited Earth, which is an interesting concept that they showed up, found Cro-Magnon man, and then decided, unlike the Asari, that we weren't worth bothering with, I guess.
Yeah.
Is kind of cool. It's interesting. This is also one of those things where I hate to be the person who sometimes harps on like, why didn't they do more with this? But like the fact that Shepard has the memories of a Cro-Magnon just like hanging around in their head is kind of cool. And like, shouldn't that have some sort of effect on like Shepard and like their like, I don't know, even just getting a skill point or something like that and being like, oh yeah, now I know how to, I've got like better hand-eye coordination because I spent years of training with bows and like spears and stuff would be kind of cool.
To be fair, like, I feel like Shepard should be a basket case by this point. Like he's lived a life as a Cro-Magnon. Like he has like sort of the collected memories of the
Protheans.
Of the Protheans from like interfacing with the Thorian. There's the beacon that you absorbed.
Yep. Like
Shepard has a lot of memories that aren't his.
Yeah, for sure. And like that should have an effect on the character. God, we're in Shadowbroker Files because we can start talking about the Indoctrination Theory a little bit too, which was if you guys weren't around for Mass Effect 3's original release, lots of people proposed, because everybody was really, really mad about the ending. Lots of people were proposing from day one that Shepard had become indoctrinated by the Reapers, and therefore that explained the ending. And you know what? There's evidence in the in Mass Effect 3 that I think supports that. Especially the dream sequences feel very much like manipulation rather than like things that are naturally coming out of Shepard's own desires, And Shepard, at that point, probably more than anybody else, has spent more time around Reapers and Reaper tech than anybody else that has Reaper tech built into them. It would make sense. So yeah, like maybe this is one of those things where like, again, having other memories loaded into your brain, having Prothean beacon technology put into your memories, and then the Prothean Gestalt memory like thrown into your brain is the kind of thing like maybe it does really affect the way Shepard is and like changes things about them. That would be kind of cool. I'd love to have that version. Yeah. Maybe that's why Shepard isn't able to be indoctrinated, is because of these additional memories changes something about their brain, gives them a resistance,
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah.
That could be a point. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into the character bracket.
Character bracket.
we have a very, very soft matchup today because it is Miranda Lawson, whom not everybody likes, but I like. I like Miranda Lawson a lot, versus Okier. If you can't remember who Okier was, I don't blame you. He's the guy who creates Grunt.
Yes.
So Warlord Okier is a God, he's like even worse than a regular Krogan in terms of like his not giving a shit. Like his apparently his response to seeing how the how Krogans reacted to the genophage was that the Krogans were too pussy about it. Like he literally, his main philosophy is that like survival of the fittest is the only way that Krogans are going to survive. And so therefore we need to be pushing fucking hard on that and not coddling anybody and like sending our babies off to die on Tuchanka and see who comes back. And therefore also like goes hard on like genetic manipulation and cloning in order to create more Krogans just to see who survives. And he gets involved in a bunch of mercenary shit so that he can make the perfect specimen. Some real eugenics shit about creating the perfect Krogan, and then manages to die in the process and leaves you Grunt, a wee baby Krogan who is 5 minutes old, but like still wants to be part of your crew. Who's much better character.
I do think it's kind of funny that like by the plot, like they're actually trying to get you to recruit Okier to be a part of your team.
Yes.
But through shenanigans, you end up with Grunt instead.
I do like that sort of bait and switch thing where you're sent after one character and you end up with another one instead. That's fun. I also would be kind of interested to see what the plot would look like if he had shown up on the ship. If Okier had managed to come with you.
Yeah.
Seeing that character interact with Morden would have been interesting.
Oh yeah. I think they would have killed each other.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. It would have been a fight. But like that's something that Mass Effect 2 was willing to do, is have your companions hate each other.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot here. He's an interesting character. I think he could have, depending on his matchup, he could have made it out of round 1, but there's not a ton here. I would have liked to see a little bit more of the relationship between him and Grunt, because he dies before Grunt is ever awoken. And Grunt has been given information from Okier. So there is some amount of both, he is his creator, and then also a little bit like his teacher father figure as well, because a lot of that information was downloaded from Okier. He has memories of them. So like having Grunt process that, and that relationship and what that means would be interesting. That would be a fun conversation to have, which I don't think comes up all that much.
They talk about it a little bit, and Grunt seems very disdainful of Okier, actually.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the matchup on this one is Miranda Lawson, who is one of your companions from Mass Effect 2. She's the Cerberus operative who was charged with raising Shepard from the dead. And then depending on how you run things over the series of, well, not depending, I think she pretty much always is going to end up figuring out that Cerberus is a pile of shit. And she's, very confident. She's apparently also been genetically engineered by her father. So there's actually kind of a Grunt Miranda connection there. That's kind of cool. That would be a fun fanfic. Anyway, she's got her whole shit. She really cares for her sister, who is apparently her genetic twin. And like you go to her loyalty mission is you go get this, rescue her sister from agents from her father and stuff like that. It's fun. I like Miranda a lot. She's one of the characters that suffers a little bit from Mass Effect's male gaze problem, because especially the butt shots that got removed apparently in the Legendary Edition, or at least got toned down. There's a lot of authors out there who will use the idea of, this character is using her sexuality, therefore it's okay if we sexualize her as the authors, and it's like, that's not great. But that being said, she does have a lot of agency in the game. She's a strong character. She's got a lot going on. She's got depth. I like her a lot. I don't think this one is even a question. I think that Miranda goes on, right?
No, I'm with you right there. Okier never stood a chance with this matchup.
No. Miranda was always going to walk away with it on this one. Now, what'll be interesting is this. I actually did the divisions the other day. Depending on how things go over the next, fucking 30 episodes. Once we get to round 3 and 4, there's a pretty good chance that Miranda and Jack were going to end up against each other in round 5. So that will be interesting.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to mark down Miranda Lawson. And as always, when I put these episodes up on the release day, there will be a Twitter poll for 24 hours to determine what our audience thinks and if they ever are going to disagree with us. So far, as of recording, they have not yet disagreed with us. But I'll be interested to see what they do over the next couple of ones because they're 5 weeks behind us. So
that's true.
All right. Well, with that, we are done for this week. I have no idea what we're doing next week because we haven't done that yet. It's probably going to be a lot more. We probably have a lot. Oh, no. You told me it's going to be Noveria.
Yes.
Okay. I've already done Noveria because we got our wires crossed and I did 2 planets in a single evening.
And I'm currently halfway through Noveria, so we will definitely be doing Noveria next time.
Cool. Awesome. So that'll be our next 2 episodes then. All right. Well, in that case, we will see you guys next week.
All right. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to the N7 Project. If you would like to read the upcoming playthrough roadmap, there is a link in the show notes below. We can be found on Twitter as @N7Project, at our website, masseffectpodcast.com, or via our Discord, scottpaladin.com/discord. If you'd like to support the podcast, honestly, the easiest way to be to write us a review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or your podcatcher of choice. We read every one of those and it gives us a real boost every time, and it helps people find the podcast. Or if you want to give monetary support, all funds to our Patreon, patreon.com/monsterpod, will also go to supporting this podcast. Mass Effect, its associated characters, sounds, plot points, whatever, are copyright by some giant faceless corporation. The N7 Project was produced and edited by me, Scott Paladin, and hosted by myself and my best friend, Zach Jaquays. Audio is copywritten 2022, Scott Paladin. This has been a Library of Cursed Knowledge production.